US homelessness this year has reached levels that have not been seen since the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis. And that top line fact is scary enough. I think that should be stressing enough for us as a country. But there's a lot more in this report that came out of the Department of Housing and Urban Development that I think should worry a lot of people. The raw numbers of those experiencing homelessness, 653,000 is terrible. It is a 12% increase from last year. That is a major increase. Like think that is about 60,000 additional people, a stadium full of people experiencing homelessness, indifference just from last year. It is the highest since 2007, and 1/3 of those numbers are chronically homeless. That, by the way, is the highest level that has been measured ever. By the way, of those that we're talking about here, 60% were sheltered, 40% were unsheltered, sleeping outdoors or places not meant for human habitation. You have a rise in homelessness among families and individuals. And it's particularly bad as so many of these stories tend to be once you break it down into different demographic groups. So Black people accounted for 37% of the homeless population, despite only making up 13% of the country's entire population. Asian Americans saw the largest percentage increase, a 40% rise from 2022, which is absolutely massive. The largest numeric increase was among Hispanic or Latino Americans, up by more than 39,000 people. Again, from just last year. I am seeing this being reported. Vice News is a great write-up on it. I am seeing it in some other places. But this is the sort of national crisis that should dominate our political discourse. And I think you and I both know that it has virtually no chance of that happening. If anything, those who are gonna weigh in, likely on Fox News, are going to use this news as another way to just demonize homeless individuals. But Rayyvana, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it's really sad to see this, especially coming off of a recent study. I think it was out of California, where they gave homeless individuals a certain amount of money every month. And by the end of the study, wouldn't you know it, they were experiencing better conditions than when they weren't getting any money at all. And when I was filling in for you, John, like a few months back, I covered the same story coming out of Colorado, the same type of study done over a year, where they saw a massive decrease in homelessness among the population of people that they were just giving money, no strings attached to, every single month. And it turns out when you give these people money, they don't spend it on drugs and alcohol like the right wing would want you to believe. They spend it on food, they spend it on medicine, they spend it on housing. Because, and as you mentioned, those numbers, a portion of the individuals are living in shelters, or some are living in their vehicles, but that's not permanent housing. But we saw like a massive increase in stability in housing for this population if you just give them money. And if you just give them houses, then you of course see a massive increase in housing stability for this population. The solutions are in front of us, but instead of actually enacting these types of meaningful solutions, Democratic parties across the country, state parties and the national party would rather just debate bro you about how actually economic conditions are slightly better. If you look at this graph, when we have people feeling so much economically worse off than they've, in this case, been since the 2008 crisis.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the solutions are complex in implementation, but philosophically not complex. Help people to find housing. Make change. And by the way, the ways that you do that aren't necessarily just specifically unhoused individual facing. Your policy on real estate and all that is obviously going to have massive consequences on that. But the weird thing is that it is so weirdly easy. I'm gonna say for America, I don't speak for other countries, that what should be the trigger for a massive amount of empathy, people having to live without a home, which it's not like that's a debatably bad thing. Nobody watching this is like, maybe it's bad, maybe it's not. We should instantly know that that's an unacceptable situation for any human being to live in. And yet, there has been a very successful effort, obviously, socially in America, to get people to think, nah, screw them, doesn't matter. Like they're bad people. The fact that they're experiencing something that if I had to go through it for one night, like that would be devastating. They deserve it, nothing needs to be done. I hate them, I don't wanna see them. And you have rich a-holes in the news Like we don't have time, unfortunately, to show you the Jesse Waters video we were gonna show you, but like we have covered for like 3 years now. Every couple months, he goes back to how much he absolutely despises the unhoused population. And so even just pragmatically, isn't it a little bit weird that he supports policies that result in these massive increases in the unhoused population? Like he is creating the conditions that will make it so uncomfortable for him as he steps out of his limo and has to walk past those who don't have homes on his way to his fancy studio. As you said, I wish we had time to go over the numbers, but yes, that study that was done that gave people a $750 monthly stipend was used for food, housing, transportation, the sort of things that you might expect. It was incredibly helpful. This is not the first time a study like that has been done. One would think, again, that if you had a problem with people being unhoused, something like this seems like a really cheap way to solve that social situation that you find so inconveniencing. And yet I am sure that to the extent that this gets talked about, it'll be demonized by the right as giving money to bad people.